here it is, the most eagerly awaited arcade game of the year, the brand new Star Wars. Sound familiar? Let's check out the action.
You know, there was a time before streaming, before 4K, before we had big surround sound systems in our living rooms, when the most cinematic experience you could have cost a quarter. I'm talking about the arcade. And if you grew up in the late 70s, 80s, or even into the 90s, you know this. Arcades weren't just game rooms. They were loud. They were dark. They smelled like popcorn, carpet cleaner, and pizza grease. And in the middle of that glowing cave of wonders were the machines that felt like stepping into a movie. Not games, experiences. Some of these cabinets were basically summer blockbusters that you could play. So tonight, we're going to look at about a dozen arcade games that felt like movies. Big cinematic energy, crowds gathered around, and that feeling that you weren't just playing, you were starring in something. So let's drop a quarter and dim the lights. Pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right, so arcade games. You know, to me, as a kid that grew up in the 80s, arcade games, video games, movies, video rental stores, the movie theater, all these things, mall stores, the food court, they just went into this big ball that just feels like that time period. And arcades were a big part of that. And some of these games felt like the movies themselves. And coming in at number 12, I could probably go on for 50 of these. We're going to do 12 today, starting with Robocop. Look, if you were a kid and you walked into the arcade and you saw Robocop, you immediately felt like, I got to play this before somebody tells me I can't, because this thing felt dangerously close to the movie. You play as Murphy, fully armored, walking through the dystopian Detroit, blasting criminals, rescuing civilians, and looking like an R-rated action film accidentally wandered into an arcade. The vibe was grim, industrial backgrounds, heavy sound effects, slow, unstoppable Robocop walk that just felt inevitable. It felt like Paul Verhoeven in a movie distilled into an arcade game, and you got to live it and be a part of his direction with a couple of quarters. The video game was also like peak era where kids had seen a lot of these movies. Even if they were R-rated, it didn't matter. And this game lets you live inside of it for just a couple of quarters. Late night cable VHS energy distilled into an arcade game with Robocop. Now, number 11 is one that I played a lot, and it is Afterburner. Look, I played all these a lot. Robocop, when it left the arcade and came to Nintendo, my grandmother bought it for me. So it was a different time in the 80s. But Afterburner didn't feel like a game. It felt like a Top Gun ride before there was any kind of It felt like you were on a Top Gun ride and you were in the experience like a simulator for Top Gun. And if you were lucky enough to find one that had the moving cockpit version, forget about it. Now that one sometimes costs more, at least later on. I remember having to pay 50 cents. But it felt like you were in a movie. The cabinet tilted, it shook, it blasted the music. You might as well hear Danger Zone in your head. The jets flew at you at full cinematic scale. This was one of the first arcade games where people stood around and watched it like it was a theater screen. It had that summer blockbuster adrenaline. No deep story, just pure spectacle. Like Tony Scott himself directed this video game, and sometimes that's all a movie needs, and that's all a good game needs. Now at number 10 is Aliens. Yes, which is basically just Alien like 2.5. You and a buddy could play this game, and you stepped inside like a scrolling shooter game as space marines blasting xenomorphs, turrets, eggs, and everything James Cameron would approve of. The sound design alone made this game feel cinematic. Even within a noisy arcade, you felt this game. Explosions, pulse rifles, alien shrieks. The cabinet sounded like a theater, and the environments felt like movie set pieces. You had the labs, the colonies, the hive tunnels, all that stuff. You weren't just shooting enemies, you were moving through movie scenes. And that's the difference between a game and something that feels like a movie. And you got that experience back in the day at the arcade. Now, number 9 is one that I bought instantly when it finally came to Nintendo, but I played it a lot in the arcade. It is Ninja Gaiden. And listen, that's before the console version. Like, that thing made everybody nuts with the difficulty level on that. The arcade game, though, Ninja Gaiden, felt like a Canon Films ninja flick. That's exactly what it felt like. You've got Ryu slicing gangs with martial arts and crime bosses, and it looked like he walked out of a Canon Films movie and into a arcade game. That's what it felt like. Big dramatic entrances, boss fights staged at movie level showdowns, the urban neon crime movie aesthetic. I'm telling you, it's like Canon Films distilled into an arcade game. It felt like the kind of action movie you'd rent because the cover looked awesome. The only thing was it was an arcade game, and it was totally awesome. Ninja Gaiden comes in at number 9. Now, number 8 is another one that I wore out when I finally got it on a home game console, and that is Contra. Look, Contra felt like every 80s action movie that Stallone and Arnold did mashed into one movie. Commando, Predator, Rambo, even a little Aliens vibe thrown in there. All of it mashed into Contra. I've even seen t-shirts where it's Arnold and Stallone basically as the characters from Contra. And it took you and a buddy, because you and a friend, couple shirtless action heroes gunning through there, running through jungles, alien bases, explosions nonstop. It was pure, just like cinematic escalation as an arcade game. And every level felt like the next act in a movie. Bigger, louder, more insane. And yes, this is a game where friendships could be tested if one of you grabbed the spreader gun and the other one was trying to get it, and you know who you are. But you felt like a king when you got that big spreader gun because you could just wipe stuff out. Man, Contra, I could sit down and play Contra right now, but I'd rather go to an arcade and play it. Now, number 7 is one that I have actually played recently because there is a place not too far from me called the Flashback Arcade, and they have all these arcade games. You can pay like $10 or $15, and you can just go in there and play all night now. There are all these games. Me and my son Logan actually played this not too long ago. It's X-Men.
X-Men.
If you saw the 6-player X-Men cabinet in the wild, you stopped to play it because it looked like an attraction in and of itself with that big arcade cabinet. It was like a crossover movie before crossover movies were a thing. You had Cyclops, Wolverine, Storm, Colossus, all playable, all on screen at the same time, all chaos, bright colors, voice clips thrown in there to add to it, a story beat that felt like a Saturday morning cartoon when you were playing it, and like playing it out in real time. This was communal cinema as an arcade game. Strangers teaming up like an audience watching an event. X-Men is cool. If you can find that game out anywhere now, play it. Now, number 6 is one that my older uncle and I used to go to the movie theater, and attached to the movie theater was an arcade in Lawrenceville, Georgia, over here. And we would go with stacks of quarters and stand there for hours. We would watch a movie, then come play this game for hours and go watch another movie. It is Street Fighter. Listen, Street Fighter felt like a global martial arts tournament condensed into an arcade game. Every character had their own backstory. Every character, every stage felt like a location shoot. Every match felt like a fight scene from a movie. That's why they made a movie out of it with Van Damme and Raul Julia, and we're getting a remake of the movie now. So super excited. That's the power of these, and they tie into movies. I'm telling you, this was just like a big synergy in the 80s and 90s. You would have crowds, though, forming around this game in the arcade, watching people taking turns, all of that. It was like watching a live sporting event, and it crossed into cinema. They made this into a movie. That brought even more energy. People watched, people cheered. This was like the Rocky montage of arcade games. It was like a Van Damme movie almost in and of itself, like a Quest video game in an arcade. You have to love it. Street Fighter. Ayuget! And then the next one showed up, and the next one is, of course, Mortal Kombat. Listen, man, suddenly when Mortal Kombat hit, arcades felt dangerous. Digitized actors for the first time, realistic movement, blood, and fatalities. Listen, this thing, get over here with Scorpion. You gotta love it, man. This felt like you stumbled into an R-rated martial arts movie being projected inside an arcade game cabinet. Parents were concerned when it came out about the violence. We were obsessed. Like I was a little older when this one came out, and I just completely dug it. Crowds around this thing in the arcades were massive before you could play it at home. This wasn't just a game people played. People watched other people do it for the special moves, the throwing the spear, freezing people, Johnny Cage, a ripoff of Van Damme with the, crotch punch, all of that. It was like watching a midnight movie, really, like a Canon film mixed with a horror film. Mortal Kombat, it spawned many movies of its own. It's completely fitting because the synergy between the two. Mortal Kombat, get over here! Now, number 4 is a sneaky one, because me as a horror filmmaker and movie lover, I always kind of dug playing House of the Dead. This was mid-90s. I was older. I could drive myself to an arcade to go play this one and get the full cinematic experience. House of the Dead felt like starring in a gloriously cheesy zombie B-movie. Light guns, voice acting, cutscenes, branching paths, zombies everywhere. It's literally had pacing like a film with full setups, jump scares, boss reveals, and the dialogue was absolutely ridiculous but beautiful at the same time. It is exactly like the best late night cheesy horror B movies. If Vinegar Syndrome made a arcade game, it would be House of the Dead, and I absolutely love it. It comes in at number 4. Now, number 3 is going to show my age. The next couple are going to show my age a little bit, so I got to kick it a little old school on you here with Dragon's Lair. This one felt like a movie because it basically was one. Hand-drawn animation from Don Bluth. Legend. All Dogs Go to Heaven. Anything you can think of, Don Bluth was drawing it. Full cinematic scenes, crowds gathering around, watching someone try to survive. It was less playing and more performing. When someone was good at Dragon's Lair, people stood there and watched like they were watching a movie because they basically were. Don Bluth was the man. He could scare you. He could go dark, and he could help make a kick-ass arcade game. Dragon's Lair comes in at number 3. Now, number 2, besides playing this, we had the Gold Mine arcade here a lot in the malls here in Georgia growing up. And then we had standalone arcades next to movie theaters. But I remember playing this one in an arcade on the boardwalk in Daytona Beach circa 1986. 87, this thing was still rocking popular. 85 maybe, if I even really think about it, and that is Star Wars.
The most eagerly awaited arcade game of the year, the brand new Star Wars. Sound familiar? Let's check out the action.
This cabinet was the closest most kids were ever going to get to being inside a Star Wars movie. Especially then, you had vector graphics that created this surreal sort of glowing cinematic experience. You sat down, you grabbed the controls. They had a couple different versions of this game. But you grab the controls and suddenly you're flying into the Death Star trench. And then you add voice clips to it later, sound design, a cockpit cabinet. So they had there was one game that you could stand up. There was one that you could sit down. No matter what, though, you got the experience. It felt like a ride. It felt like you were driving a X-Wing fighter, a movie, an event, a blockbuster arcade design. I absolutely love it. I can smell the beach, the ocean, feel the sand, hear the noise of playing this when we vacation at Daytona Beach in the summer. Star Wars comes in at number 2. And at number 1, if arcades had peak cinematic moments, it was Terminator 2, Judgment Day. It might be this. It might really be a massive cabinet, dual machine guns, digitized actors, full movie clips. You weren't just playing a game, you were playing through the movie. This felt like a theme park attraction before the theme parks caught up to it. Explosions, story progression that Cameron would be proud of. Crowds gathered around watching. It was interactive cinema as an arcade game, and for a brief window in the early 90s, arcades were delivering blockbuster experience that rivaled the theaters before they started dwindling off and giving way to home video consoles that got bigger and better. But the experience, much like going to a movie theater, added so much to it. Being in an environment that surrounds you, immerses you. That's what movie theaters do. That's what arcades did, sharing that experience with other people, and it made them so special. There was a time when, I'm going to sound old, but there was a time when arcades were more than just places to play. They were dark rooms full of glowing screens where movies and great times and memories lived inside big wooden machine and metal consoles. You didn't stream them. You didn't download them. You stepped up, dropped a quarter, and for a few minutes, you were the star. If you grew up in this era, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So tell me in the comments, what arcade game felt like a movie to you, or do you even remember arcades? And trust me, this might be volume 1, but there's a lot more where these came from if you guys are interested. But until then, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. I'll see you at the arcade with more videos. And if you want to support what we're doing here, you can drop a quarter or more at my Patreon link below, and you'll get your name in lights in a full cinematic event here on every video. Behind the scenes looks at my filmmaking, special members only videos, and so much more. And everything helps the channel, and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind like always. It's Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye. I know.